Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Asterisk, the 1,000-year truce is over. Aliens declare war. But humans only laughed. The galaxy expected screams, static, and surrender. Instead, the first human reply to the alien declaration of war was a laugh, bright, steady, almost gentle. Then a second voice joined, deeper. Then a chorus. Then a tide. Millions of receivers awakened across the Orion spine and the Perseus drift, filling the dark with something outrageous. Joy. The Virkash Emperor's decree flickered on every relay. The truce is broken. Humanity must kneel. In the command amphitheater beneath Earth's polar ice, Commander Mara Rafik stood still, helmet under her arm, shoulders squared. Around her, the Dominion fleet warmed its engines, but the room remained quiet, waiting for her word. She watched the final line of the broadcast, the threat, the promise of annihilation. And she smiled, not cruelly, not carelessly, but like someone who has lived through a storm and stepped out into sunlight. Send it, Mara said. A single tone rang out. Then the human reply, clean and impossible to mistake. Acknowledged. We decline. Silence followed. A long breath held by 1,000 worlds. Then humanity laughed again. Some called it arrogance. Others, strategy. To humans, it was neither. It was memory, stitched into bone and breath. 1,000 years of peace had not made them soft. It had made them precise. They had healed, learned, and prepared, not for conquest, but for choice. Admiral Ezra Cole's face appeared beside Mara's, lines etched from old wars. We waited for this, he said, low, steady. Not the fight, the moment we decide who we are. Mara nodded. We choose us. On the far side of the Milky Way, the Virkash primary dreadnought, Imperium Fang, unfolded its weapon petals like a steel flower. On the near side, Earth's hidden ring, Project Lighthouse, turned slow as a thought. Invisible arrays woke, and the sky itself felt like it inhaled. The first alien shot would cross the void in 9 minutes. The first human move would land in 8. Mara opened a private channel, speaking not to soldiers, but to citizens. This message is for every person who thinks fear is the only sane response. Fear is appropriate. Panic is optional. Surrender is forbidden. Laugh if you can. Breathe if you must. Stand if you will. We stand with you? A pause. Her gaze softened. They think war is domination. For humans, war is revelation. We don't laugh at them. We laugh at the lie that we are small. The operations AI designation Dominion chimed, engines ready. Fleet cohesive. Morale very high. Ezra exhaled. Let them come. On the edge of Proxima, a human picket ship flashed its running lights in a playful pattern. Dot, dot, dash. Hello, hello, hello. The Virkash sensors recorded it as an error. A glitch. A joke. They didn't understand. Not yet. The human laughter rolled through the relay again. Softer this time, then steadier, like a heartbeat. Send the treaty logs, Mara said. All 1,000 years? To them? Ezra asked. To everyone. She looked into the dark, into a future not yet written, and raised her helmet. The truce is over, she whispered, but our terms remain. She sealed the visor, the world dimmed, and her voice sharpened. All ships rise. The Dominion fleet lifted from shadow. Engines brightened. Humanity did not scream. Humanity smiled and moved. Asterisk, 1,000 years of truce is not the same as 1,000 years of sleep. The galaxy assumed humans had forgotten the vocabulary of struggle. In truth, they had expanded it. They wrote new grammars, kindness as policy, patience as power, preparation as love. The Treaty of Ashfall, signed on a world now green again, forbid offensive militarization. Humanity obeyed the letter and honored the spirit, while building something different, resilience. Farms in orbit, cities beneath oceans, lattice habitats where a single breach did not doom a million souls. Children learned botany before ballistics, ethics before engines. But engines too, always engines. When the Outer Rim famine struck the Kelm, human cargo fleets crossed embargo lines. They fed former enemies without permission, without payment. Some called it weakness. A Vircash archivist labeled it viral. Mercy, in their files, behaved like an infection. Yet beneath mercy, steel. Project Lighthouse, the planetary ring, was not a cannon. It was an orchestra pit. Defense arrays tuned to frequencies that soothed panicked crowds. Countermeasures that whispered to radiation and made it sit still. Shield harmonics that yielded like silk, then hardened like diamond. Weapons? Yes, but the first strike was always against Chaos.Dominion. The strategic AI was born not as a tyrant, but as a tutor. It listened longer than it spoke. It calculated not only trajectories of missiles, but the thousand small ways a city remains gentle in a hard season. Light, timing. Water, thermals. Festival schedules that avert despair. War, if it came, would pass through people's lives like a storm. Dominion's duty was to keep the lights on. Mara Rafek's grandfather had been a refugee. Her mother, a negotiator. Mara, a soldier with a poet's spine. She wore 3 rings, one for Earth, one for Titan, one for a colony she had never seen, but had sworn to defend. She believed in peace. She never mistook it for safety. The Vircash remembered differently. To them, truce was digestion, a pause before swallowing. Their hatchlings learned history from bone-etched glyphs that said, "The strong rode." Over centuries, their empire calcified. Ritual replaced curiosity. Fear wore a crown. When resources thinned and pride gnawed, their councils found a scapegoat, the patient mammal. The laughing ape. They were wrong about the ape. They were wrong about the laughter. Across human space, culture had evolved an odd reflex. When shock struck, disaster, betrayal, sudden loss, people found each other and laughed. Not mockery, not denial. A sound like shared breath. We are here. We are together. We will proceed. It stabilized hands, cleared vision, and made room for grief and grit. It sounded like rebellion. It was. Against despair. So, when the Emperor's decree arrived, humanity's laugh was not a taunt. It was a bridge. We remember who we are, it said, comma by comma, dot by dot. We, the stubborn. We, the stubbornly kind, got the truce had taught them music, medicine, ethics, art. It had also taught them something the Vircash never imagined. How to be deadly without hating. That was the secret, carefully grown in the quiet years, watered by those who had once been broken, and then stood. When the first alien shot crossed the void, the secret years ended. What remained stepped forward. The battle at Proxima Gate began with a joke and a prayer. The joke, a picket ship flashing a pattern that meant, to ancient sailors, "We see you." The prayer, a whisper from engineer Leon Ortega to the reactor core, "Be kind. Run true." The Vircash spearheads slid in like a knife. 3 cruisers, 1 carrier, dozens of skittercraft. Their doctrine was simple. Shock, overwhelm, decapitate. Their first salvo targeted communications. Their second, med bays. Their third, life support nodes. They had studied the old human wars. They had not studied the new human mind. Dominion shifted the local physics with gentle hands. Shield lattice flexed. Energy bled sideways into heat sinks disguised as sculpture. The alien strike arrived, broke like a wave on a clever reef, and drifted harmlessly into the dark. Human channels remained open. Medical decks stayed bright. Children, in a school dome 2 light minutes away, finished a lesson about migratory clouds and a story about a boy who built a kite. Begin Operation Punchline. Mara said the name was intentional. Morale is a weapon too. Across Virkash bands, the humans broadcast ancient human laughter, not mocking, not cruel, then layered in messages. Surrender protocols available. Asylum guaranteed. Ceasefire earns you safe drift. You are seen. The aliens found their sensors full of giggles, old sitcom snippets, babies squealing with delight. Their fire control software flagged the audio as a weapon. It wasn't, not strictly. It was a mirror. On Imperium Fang, first Talon Sarek slammed a claw into the console. Purge the interference. It returns, a coder hissed. Soft but persistent. On HSV Valiant, Ezra Cole watched telemetry. They're hesitating, he murmured. Not enough, Mara replied. Open the corridor. Human ships parted like curtains, revealing empty space, an exit slit for any Virkash crew who would take it. Some did. Fear, then survival, then a shock curiosity. A skitter craft powered down and coasted through the gap. Human tugs caught it in a field as gentle as a hand catching a glass. The skitter pilot trembled, expecting knives. Instead, water, light. A med tech named Juno Park offering a blanket, warm as a star. Why laugh? The pilot rasped. Translation software struggled. The word came out. Why sing? Juno kept her voice even. Because we survived and refused to become what hurt us. Because panic makes cruel decisions. Because it helps. Helps what? Vision, choice. Meanwhile, the battle tightened. The Virkash carrier launched a graphite lance toward Valiant's spinal keel. Dominion anticipated, rotated the hull 3 degrees, and lit the lance with a beam tuned to molecular resonance. The weapon fell apart mid-flight, dust, glittering, harmless as frost. Return fire, Mara said. Not rage, precision. Human batteries spoke. Not to annihilate, but to disarm. Hinge cuts. Sensor bursts. Engine throttles slashed to idle with surgical care. The carrier, arrogant and angry, found itself intact, embarrassed, and surrounded by ships that refused to kill unless forced. The galaxy had expected carnage. Instead, it saw discipline, humor, and a door left open. On every frequency, the human laugh rolled one more time and faded to a steady tone. You may leave. You may learn. You may live. Some Virkash spat. Some cursed. Some shook. A few listened. The battle ended not with a bang, but with a corridor and a choice. Cherek had sworn the oath of fangs beneath the cold moons of Vis. His first scar was a ribbon of dark hide across his chest. He believed in strength, in debt, in honor, a hard, simple geometry. The truce had confused him as a child. Why feed the weak? He once asked. To remind them, his trainer said, who can starve them? He had never seen mercy presented without price dot in the recovery bay of Heliotrope Station, wrapped in a blanketing gel that smelled oddly of citrus. Sarek stared at the human ceiling, bewildered by softness. He tried to spit. The gel caught it and warmed it into nothing. A human voice, careful. That's your throat, trying to be brave? The speaker, Juno Park, adjusted a feed. You're safe. Captive, he rasped. Patient, she said. He flexed a claw. The gel flexed with it, like a tide. Why laugh, pray? Juno tilted her head. We were prey. Sometimes we are still prey. But we're not only that, not anymore. We laugh because we remember when we had no breath to spare. Now we do. Mockery. Memory. Sareg listened to the distant hum of engines, the rhythm of a place designed for comfort during crisis. The architecture felt arrogant to him at first. Then he realized it was faith, not in gods, but in people, that they would face fear and not become monsters. This was a kind of strength he had not been taught to measure. A holla bloomed above him. The truce logs, page after page, treaty after treaty, 1,000 years of signatures and seals. Humans had not hidden their history. They had published it, messy and noble. The last page flickered. Then Mara Rafik appeared, speaking to billions. Her words reached even this quiet room. We did not break the truce. We outgrew it. If you must attack, know this. We will not be what you expect. Sarek bared his teeth. We expected softness. Juno smiled, tired but kind. We expected that you would expect that. His mind spun. A culture that laughed at war. What to do with that? It wasn't a greater cruelty. It was a refusal to be bent. Their AI spoke in the halls, not as a god, but as a guide. If you need assistance, look for the green line. If you need quiet, follow the blue. If you need hope, find each other. The lines were literal, painted into the decks. The hope was real, practiced. He remembered his broodmate, Kor, saying, humans are loud because they fear silence. Now he heard a different hypothesis in his own chest. Humans are loud to make room for each other's fear. He did not like the feeling. It unfanged old certainties. A chime sounded. Sarek stiffened. On a central screen, the Imperium found prepared a second strike, larger, angrier, closer to Earth. Sarek's heart hammered. If the humans died, he would die too. Their mercy did not extend to suicide. If the humans lived, the Empire's story about them would crack. Your Emperor will come, Juno said. He must, Sarek replied. Shame and pride wrestled inside him. And you? She asked. What will you do? His claws flexed. The gel warmed. He looked at the ceiling and at last let his voice soften. I will watch. Juno nodded. That's a start. In that quiet, under a human roof, an enemy began to see. Not a surrender. A crack. Through that crack, light. The Imperium Fang translated near Earth, like the horizon tipping over. A wedge of impossible mass, armed to scorch oceans. Its arrival shook tides, swayed satellites, and made old veterans taste iron. Panic trembled across civilian hands. Then, as rehearsed, communities answered themselves with a litany. Doors open. Lights steady. Check your neighbor. Neighborhoods that once would have screamed, now organized. Children pressed hands to windows and whispered, wow. On the Dominion Bridge, Dominion braided a plan. Its voice held warmth. Recommend shield bloom rather than beam duel. Redirect heat into the polar radiators. Request Mara's authorization to deploy Aurora. Mara, granted. Keep the corridor open. Ezra, they won't take it. Some will, Mara said. Aurora wasn't a weapon in the old sense. It was a promise cast into physics, a harmonic lattice projected through near-Earth space, tuned to disrupt aggressive targeting while amplifying humanitarian signals. Under Aurora, enemy scopes blurred around hospitals and shelters. Medivac corridors appeared brighter on hostile screens than warships did. If an enemy chose to shoot, they could. The universe would simply, gently, encourage them to choose otherwise. The Emperor chose otherwise. He laughed, not with joy, with scorn. You hide behind tricks, he said, broadcasting on open bands. Mara answered, calm. We hide behind everyone we've promised to protect. If that looks like tricks, your optics need calibration. The fang opened its petals. A super weapon, crown of thirst, began to drink heat from the magnetosphere. Seas frothed. Aurora bent, groaned, held. We'll have to hurt them, Ezra said. We'll have to stop them, Mara corrected. Hurt only as necessary. Dominion pulsed the counter-sequence. Laughter key, not literal laughter, but the mathematics of it. A wave shape found in human mirth. Uniquely chaotic, yet bounded. Woven into a signal that knocked predation algorithms off balance without touching life support. The crown hiccuped. The fang's aim stuttered. Whole seconds bought. Entire cities worth of breathing. And in those seconds, something else happened. The corridor, the exit slit, still open, brightened. Virkash escorts, scorched by their own weapons' feedback, faltered. One broke ranks, then two. Then a squadron, engines sputtering, pride cracked. Human tugs caught them, turning violence into drift, drift into docking, docking into sanctuary. Why? A Virkash pilot cried over the channel. Why spare us? Ezra's voice was gravel and sunlight. Because we want your grandchildren to grow up without this story in their bones. The Emperor roared. The fang lunged. Dominion answered with a stern mercy. Micro-jumps like commas, pausing the sentence of death, rewriting clause after clause, until the grammar of battle tilted human. A final vector lock. A final beam. Not to the fang's heart, to its pride. The super weapon went dark. The hull remained. Boarding teams, Mara said. Rules, limit, protect. Witness. On the ground, Juno Park led evac through a trembling shelter. A tiny Virkash hatchling clung to a beam, eyes wide, hissing. Juno crouched, palm open. Come on, little thorn. The hatchling sniffed, then leapt. Her weight was nothing and everything. In a world that could end, this was how it continued. Hand to hand, life to life. Outside, the auroras dazzled, real skylights born from a war that refused to be only a war. People cried and laughed together, commas and full stops in the same breath. The Emperor stared at the color, confused by beauty in a battle he intended to be ugly. Confusion, at last, allowed a new thought. He whispered, "What are you?" And the human answer, sent across every star, was simple. We are people. We chose to stay that way. Asterisk boarding action, the ugliest phrase carried with the gentlest rules. Mara's team cut through the fang's outer ribs, not with explosive teeth, but with light tuned like a surgeon's scalpel. Atmosphere vented. Safety fields stitched it. Human boots, quiet, respectful, crossed a threshold where history waited with a knife. Remember, Mara said, we are guests uninvited, not vandals. Take only what we must. Break only what breaks us. Corridors throbbed with imperial hymns. The fang tried to frighten with grandeur. Statues glared. Glyphs promised blood and banner. Dominion dimmed the sound to a bearable hum, replaced the drumbeat with a metronome that kept human hearts steady. Left, the AI said. Now right. Now speak. Mara called out in Virkash. We seek your bridge. We seek parley. Injured will be treated. Surrender earns shelter. Echoes answered. Hisses. Curses. A few raw sobs. An engineer crawled from smoke, coughing. A Marine steadied him. Water first. Then translation. Then a blanket, always a blanket. Rituals matter. At the core, the crown of thirst hissed in a sulk. Dominion ran the laughter key again, quieter, like a lullaby for rage. The weapon stayed asleep, dreaming of oaths it no longer knew how to enforce. On the bridge, the Emperor stood alone, claws still, eyes bright with a pain he would not name. When Mara entered, he flared. You bring laughter to my hall. I bring silence where it's needed, and sound where it helps, she replied, helmet off, hands open. You came to break us. We're here to stop you from breaking yourself. He clicked. Mercy is threat, clever. Mercy is boundary, Mara said. We will not kneel. We will not gloat. Choose. Choose what? To live with us tomorrow. The Emperor's jaw worked. Behind him, a mural showed the first Virkash conquest. Children traced it in schools. He had believed, for centuries, that history advanced by teeth. Yet the humans had advanced by craft, by care, by a ridiculous physics of joy. He looked at the open human stance, at weapons aimed low, at medkits visible like promises. What is your price? He asked, weary. Honesty, Mara said. Truth of the truce. Truth of your hunger. Truth of our fear. And a corridor that never closes. Humiliate me, he snarled, soft. No, Mara said. Humanity doesn't need your humiliation. We need your decision. Silence. Ezra's voice in Mara's ear. Time, Commander. She nodded, eyes still on the Emperor. I will not count to 3. I will stand here until you speak, or until you strike. Know this, if you strike, we will stop you. If we stop you, we will still offer terms. At last, the Emperor laughed. Not scorn, not surrender. Something strange, grief opening. He sank into his chair. I do not know how to live in a world where laughter wins. You will learn, Mara said. We'll help. He closed his eyes. I declare ceasefire. Repeat that, Dominion said gently, for the record. I declare ceasefire, he said again, louder. And talks. Outside, the aurora flared, a punctuation mark across the night. Not a full stop. A semicolon. The sentence would continue. On Heliotrope Station, Sarek felt the shift like a tide turning. He did not kneel. He did not cheer. He placed his palm, scarred, stubborn, against the glass, and whispered, Proceed. Ceasefire is not peace. It's the breath before the next word. The galaxy, tense, watched humans and Virkash sit at the same table. Not a grand hall. A simple room, light warm, chairs comfortable, water present. Dominion dimmed the outside noise, let inside voices carry. Mara spoke first. The truce taught us to pause. The war taught us to choose. We choose a covenant, not fear-based, not hunger-fed. The Emperor nodded, eyes dark. We choose not to die of pride. Terms flowed. Not tribute, not chains. Corridors for withdrawal. Corridors for return. Shared patrols against pirates who fed on chaos. Humane codes, hospitals sacrosanct. Evac lanes protected. Laughter permitted. That last clause made diplomats blink. Then slowly smile. What does it mean, permitted? A clerk asked. It means, Ezra said, no empire gets to police the sound people make when they survive. The clerk wrote it down, steady hand. The universe shifted a degree. Sarek stood at the room's edge, officially a witness, unofficially a student. Juno Park joined him, 2 cups in hand. Tea? He sniffed. It smells like regret. She grinned. It tastes like relief. He sipped, coughed, and nodded, grudging. Relief, yes. When negotiations faltered, Mara told a story about a boy who built a kite during the blackout years, string stitched from his mother's braided hair. The kite rose, and the whole block laughed, not at the darkness, but at their refusal to disappear. The Emperor listened, something tender and angry fighting inside him. Finally, the tender won. He placed a single claw tip on the table. We will write this, he said, and we will read it to our children. Outside, planets exhaled. Earth's oceans settled. The aurora became simply aurora again, beauty without edge. In schools, teachers explained how a battle can be a bridge, how a laugh can be a law, how mercy can be a strategy without becoming a scheme. Children tried the laughter key on toy radios. The noise they made was awful and perfect. Dominion compiled the covenant in language, plain enough to survive lawyers. Article 1. We tell the truth about what almost happened. Article 2. We keep corridors open. Article 3. We measure victory by who eats, who heals, who learns. The AI paused, then added a preface no one expected. We did not win alone. The line stood at the signing. Mara and the Emperor touched seals to hollow parchment. The room waited for applause. Instead, Mara suggested a different closing, a simple breath, a shared, soft laugh. It began hesitant, then grew, a chorus warm enough to melt a small, ancient frost. The sound traveled. People across 1,000 worlds heard it and recognized themselves. Still here, still together, still choosing after. In the quiet, Sarek asked Juno, "What am I in your story?" She considered. "A full stop," she said, "and a brand new sentence." He huffed, puzzled. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. Semicolon. "Exactly," she said. Mara returned to Earth under a sky finally unburdened. Ezra met her on the ramp. "Will they keep it?" he asked. "They will try," she said. "So will we. And if it breaks?" She looked up at the stars that had watched them learn courage the hard way. "Then we laugh, breathe, stand, and write the next covenant. We proceed." The title rolled across every relay, not as a threat, but as a reminder and a vow. The 1,000-year truce is over. Aliens declare war. But humans only laugh, not because humans are cruel, because humans are human and choose to remain so, comma by comma, choice by choice, breath by breath.